Good afternoon and welcome to Tree Talk, episode 162. Myself, Jack Neville, and Matt O'Callaghan of the Weekly Observer and Vale Star. Another brilliant weekend of action to look forward to. We have both ladies football finals this Sunday in the two Skellig grounds. We also have the Junior A Hurling final in Caherline and St Kierans. We have a new Camogie manager. We have Junior B semi-finals to look forward to as well. So do stay tuned for all that and more.
The impression the game you get out of it, what you put into, it's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
But not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Shawnee Buckley. To do that to Tomas O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word court today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran Carey. Carey leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it hard.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.
Matt, 3 days out from 3 more county finals. How are you today on this Wednesday?
I'm really good and really looking forward to the weekend. And like it's a weekend in which we have a bit of variety this weekend now, Jack, across 3 codes. We have big day in ladies football, of course, on Sunday, and we have the Junior A county final, which is always a red letter day in Limerick hurling, and it was the second most important day in Limerick hurling until the introduction of intermediate. Of course, we have the B semi-finals in hurling and football, and like as we said last week, Jack, it's great to have B semi-finals. It's great to have a B competition because COVID saw to it that we didn't have a county B competition last year, which was very, very disappointing. But in the circumstances, is understandable. But it's great. It's back, and we're down to the semi-finals, and we'll know who the finalists will be come Sunday evening.
Yeah, we've been getting boosts over the last few days. Obviously, John Lillis was announced as the new Camogie manager last night, and we'll get to that more. But before that, we got the news that obviously the ladies football finals are being played in the Gaelic grounds, and so will next weekend's Camogie finals. And I suppose it's brilliant and acknowledgement of the hard work that goes in with ladies football and Camogie in the county.
Absolutely, and full marks to Limerick GAA for acknowledging it and making the facility available to them. It's absolutely fantastic to think that the girls will get the chance to trot out on the Gaelic grounds on Sunday, and again the following week, and it's only fitting that we would have that type of cooperation. It was very interesting there, Jack, at the weekend. You'll probably have seen it, whereby the Meath men's and women's football finals were played as a double header.
Yeah,
that may be the future. Now I know that this double header concept, which is a very, very good concept in my view, and if we are to have a meeting and further the one club concept and the whole integration of the 4 codes, it's very, very important that we have more of it. And it's certainly not for the want of trying and driving it on the part of the LGFA, who have been to the forefront in putting double fixtures ahead. They put men's and ladies fixtures together in Cork, and they've done it in Mayo, and they've done it in a couple of counties. It kind of got scuppered there a bit with the COVID, but I have no doubt it will be revisited again in the very, very near future, and it's to the mutual benefit of both codes, let's face it.
Yeah,
and like the Meath County chairman was came out after and like he was waxing lyrical about the success of the day, and I have no doubt it was a huge success. Now I suppose in many ways it may have been the right place to try it, for the simple reason that there is a huge strong expectation in Meath men's football all along, and over the years, it's part of their DNA that they're strong in men's football. And I suppose the signs that they have shown between in the last year or two would suggest that they may be able to challenge Dublin's dominance in the Leinster Championship in the not too distant future. And of course, from the ladies' point of view, they had that spectacular All-Ireland win. So, like, ladies' football was real currency in Meath at the present time, and it was an ideal place to try it, and it certainly worked, and it was very, very, very successful by all accounts.
Yeah, it definitely looked successful anyway on television, and I suppose hopefully we'll have the same as we did in the hurling a few weekends ago. We had loads of music playing, and there's attractions just for a nice family day out. So hopefully we'll have more of the same on Sunday. We'll talk about the games.
That was innovative, Jack, on the part of Limerick. It was ambitious. They had a whole myriad of sideshows going on, as it were. You know, they had the honouring the relatives of the 21 team, them honouring the 96 team. You know, it was a huge logistical task to take on, and they carried it off. And I say, well done. And it certainly added to the occasion. It added to the flavour of the occasion. It added to the atmosphere of the occasion. And certainly it's something that, you know, going forward, that they should certainly consider sticking with.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll have more of the same on Sunday. Talking about the game, we'll start with the senior final between Ballylanders and Monaghan. You saw Ballylanders in the semi-final. They beat the Old Mill by 3 points. I suppose, what impressed you on the day from the south side?
Yeah, they started very brightly, Jack. They were probably on a hiding to nothing, as we said. Now, Ballylanders go into the final, Jack, and the only team they have beaten in the championship is Old Mill, because in the group stages they drew in the first round with St Ailbe's, the now dethroned champions, and they had a comprehensive 6-8 to 8 points win over Old Mill, and the vagaries of the system and the format threw up that they should meet again in the semi-final. Because, like, Old Mill had to go through the quarterfinals route, and they beat Fiona Castlemahan, which for them was a bit of a landmark victory. But Jack, it was never going to be a 6-goal game on last Sunday. Now, Ballylanders started off on the front foot, looked good, contained Old Mill to a single point in the first half. And, you know, I got a sense at different stages through the game, even though Ballylanders looked comfortably, like that there could be a kick in Old Mill, and it certainly came towards the end. Darius Kennelly got an absolutely a cracker of a goal, and at that stage there was only 2 points in it. And there was maybe 4 or 5 minutes, including injury time left. So, like, a smash and grab situation was set up, and you know, credit Old Mill, because they set out in such a way defensively that you know, that they completely marked the threat and worked very, very hard on the threat posed by Cathy Mee and Andre O'Sullivan, who would be the key players, and to a lesser extent Leisha Brown. And actually, Sophie O'Sullivan Sophie Hennessy made a couple of very good saves, and including a stunning save within a minute of the restart of the second half from Anya McGrath. But other than that, they didn't appear. Ballylanders didn't appear to open them up as we expected that they would in light of what happened in the previous meeting. But certainly, Ballylanders showed a little bit of ring rustiness. And it comes down to this thing again, where we talk about the advantage of having a quarterfinal vis-a-vis the team that goes directly to the semi-final. Ballylanders went directly to the semi-final. And I know you were at the Monaghan game, and Monaghan did the same, and Drumbrodford did the same. But like we spoke last week, and I think we flagged it, Jack, and maybe I'm digressing for a bit now, but just on the point of semi-finals versus quarterfinals. we highlighted the fact that Mungret were 6 weeks without a game, and there's no doubt it militated against them in the semi-final, and that's not to detract for 1 minute from Ola's achievement of getting over the line in that one.
Yeah, and we'll get on to that intermediate final in a minute. But just on Monaghan St Ailbe's, I was at the game in Clarina, and even though Monaghan had that break, they hit the ground running. They had a point within a few minutes from Katrina Davis. Karen O'Leary had a point then, and it could have been a goal. She was in on goal, and she was kind of dragged down as she was shooting, and it went over the bar, and she was left as a score. But it was definitely a penalty if she didn't score it. Karen was exceptional on the day at wing forward. I'd seen her play wing back a lot of times, but wing forward seems position for her. She was able to get up and down the line. But approaching half time, it was 8 points to no score, and then Grace Lee got a goal, an effort just dropped in over the head of the Ailbe's goalie, and the game looked over at half time. Now, to their credit, St Ailbe's introduced Mairead Kavanagh at half time. She got a score straight away. Emma Ryan got a brace of frees, and you're thinking, look, we could have a comeback here, but Karen O'Leary went up and scored a goal or a point at the other end for Monaghan, and they just kind of eased to win. St Ailbe's did get a goal, but just overall, Monaghan were exceptional on the day. They controlled the game. They got their lead early on, controlled the game till the end. And I know Ballylanders did the same, probably a bit closer, but the importance of getting that lead early, and it's the two standout teams. And you would imagine if one of the teams can get the upper hand quickly, they will be hard to beat come Sunday.
Absolutely true, and I never cease lamenting the fact that Karen O'Leary doesn't play with the Limerick footballers. To me, she's one of the best club footballers in the county. A fantastic ball carrier, and you saw it at first hand, Jack. I have seen it in the past, and now the game has gone back to 2:15, Jack.
Yeah, from
2:00. Just to make that point, the reason behind it, I don't know. It's only 15 minutes either way anyway. But yeah, the start will be hugely important in this one. Absolutely, hugely important. And like we saw the importance of the starts last weekend. Now I saw two games on Sunday, and I'll be talking about the drum game in a minute. But Ballylanders got the start. All right, they got an early point, and Iris Kennelly equalised almost immediately. But after that, it was Ballylanders incrementally, patiently building the lead, and they had it built up by half time. And it was very, very hard for. It was 9 points to 2 at one stage. But credit Old Mill. They kept any chance they got for a point. They took it. Now Ballylanders lost Rose Highland after 2 minutes. Their midfielder through injury, which was certainly a blow, and is certainly a blow to the game plan. If you lose one of your midfielders, and especially one of your midfielders when they're confronted with the prowess of Roisin Ambrose, who I thought had a fine game for Old Mill. That aside, now let's hope that wish Rose the very best, and that she'll be okay for Sunday. But she had to leave the field after 2 minutes, so that was a blow to Ballylanders' strategy. But they seemed to take it in their stride there in the first half, and as I said, incrementally built up the lead and restricted Old Mill to a single point in the first half. But even in that first half, Old Mill threatened very little, Jack. They offered very little, but when the game was slipping away in the final quarter, they seemed to offer an awful lot more. They, in many ways, mirrored Newcastle West in the football final. In that they came with a late surge, and as I said, they reduced the margin to 2 points. And at that stage, it was 10 points to 1-5. Now, Christy Carroll got a very, very good point to settle Ballylanders after that. But, it was game on, and like where they found the first goal, which was excellently crafted and absolutely sublimely finished by Iris Kennelly, they could easily have found a second, perhaps, but I suppose it's testimony to Ballylanders that when the pressure came on, and late pressure comes on, and the momentum is with the opposition, very often teams wilt. But no, Ballylanders, they stood firm, didn't panic, and saw the game out.
Yeah, talking about the defensive there, Monaghan were excellent, and they limited St Albans to very, very little. They kept shut them out completely in the first half. Now, Niamh Ryan did have a shot that hit the crossbar. Emer Ryan had one that hit the post. They did hit the woodwork 3 times, but never really looked like scoring. Niamh Ryan's effort was from fairly far out. But I thought in the half-back line, Deborah Murphy and Laurie O'Connor were very, very good. And Kate Keary and Yvonne Lee behind them, then the full-back line are kind of in and around there, were also excellent. So Ballylanders will find it very hard to break down. But going forward then, they were very, very strong, were Monaghan. Look, it's no surprise when you look at the players they have, like Katrina Davis, Karen O'Leary mentioned a good few times, Ella Wheel and Amy Curtin, these kind of girls, they just tore Ailbe's up, and they could have been further ahead, and I think they got so far ahead, it was Curtin's, because they didn't really look like scoring in the second half, but didn't look like conceding either. But this game, like, it's probably so far long ago, but 2018 they played in a final, in 2017 they got one each. This could be seen as kind of a dead rubber, but they won't be thinking about them games. Every final is its own final, but these girls
it could be seen as a decider. But I'm just wondering, you see, the amount of pent-up hurt that must be in Monaghan, because you take 2019, that dramatic late point from Emer Ryan, and you take it last year when Ailbe's dug out a 9 points to 1-4 victory, and it was a day in which Karen O'Leary was missing, which was a big loss, and they must be really, really hurting, and they did everything but win the football match last year, Jack, the 2020 final, and I'd say St Albans will be first to put their hand up on that one, but credit St Albans, they saw it out, but there must be a certain amount of pent-up hurt in Monaghan that, and saying to themselves, and when you look at the management team that they have, high-powered management team with Mike Quilligan there, with Martin O'Sullivan, like they're with him since 2017. Joe Lee, there's very little that Joe Lee doesn't know about football, as we know. Like you've James Kelly there, you've Owen Hurley there, like they have the minds behind them on the line anyway. If they can translate it onto the field now, they beat Ballylanders in the semi-final last year, and I think laid the foundations for that particular victory. I was at it in the first half when Monaghan played against the Breeze and led for most of the first half. So it was nearly job done at halftime, but Ballylanders had come back into it, and I think they'd gone about a point or two ahead by halftime, which with a strong gale force wind and having to face it in the second half was it just wasn't going to happen, Jack. But having said that, Ballylanders really, really made them work for it in the second half. They got absolutely nothing soft, but they saw it through. And I honestly came away from that game that day in Mungret, and I can remember quite well saying to myself, "Yeah, I think Monaghan are primed to do the job this year." But in the final was a totally different game. It didn't happen, Jack.
Yeah, but again, they were only kicking the ball away in 19 and 20. But again, a final any day can be won by any team. And Badlanders won 3 in a row before Monaghan stopped them in 2018. So there will be revenge on the mind of both sides.
Absolutely, neither side will be short of motivation, and neither side will be short of unfinished business, because for Ballylanders it will be to avenge that 2018 defeat, which by the way they probably didn't see coming, I'd say. Yeah. Because they were at the height of their prowess, and they haven't reached the final since. And for Monaghan, it will be to atone for 3 losses out of 4 finals to date. Like in their 5th final, it would be a very, very disappointing record. Come Sunday evening, where they appear in their 5th final and only win 1.
Yeah, but we'll come to your prediction at the end, Matt. We'll move on to the curtain raiser on the day at 12 o'clock. This Sunday in the Gaelic grounds, Ula take on the defending champions Drumbrod for an intermediate final. I suppose it's strange enough that you'll see it defending champions in the intermediate grade, but Drumbrod are looking to go back to back. They were victorious over Knockany, while Ula beat Munster St Paul's. We'll go to that game first. You did mention it. Ula would have been seen as outsiders against Munster, who had lost finals in 19 and 20, but fully deserving of a 1-9-7 win.
Yeah. Now, from what I'm hearing, very few could argue with it. Now, it was Ula's 5th semi-final in a row. They won the Junior Championship in 2016 and had appeared in all the subsequent intermediate semi-finals. And now they're through to the final, which is a breakthrough for them. Now, we did make the point last week about Mungret and the 6-week lapse and the 6 weeks of inactivity, and it's nobody's fault. It's just that Mungret were played in the first 2 rounds, got the job done, and they had a bye in the 3rd round, which meant they had an extra 2 weeks. And that, as I said, that's not to detract from Ula's performance, because, Ula have been building steadily, and if you look at them, they have a number of county players now with county experience, which will be very, very important. Of course, you have Amy Ryan and Kathleen Fitzgibbon, Cameron O'Dwyer, Leah Coughlin, there are others that have, so they won't be short of experience. Now, I saw Drumbrod in the semi-final against Maru Bohor last Sunday, and it was a funny game in many ways, Jack, in that Drumbrod raced into a 5 points lead. Literally before you realised the game was on, they had 5 points on the board within 10 minutes. And that early dominance gave way to a period of Maru Bohor dominance. Complete Maru Bohor dominance. It was that kind of a game. And but the Maru Bohor really were unable to test the defensive qualities of Drumbrod. They shot a few wides, but they won a penalty on the 20th minute. And Nicole Bennett, who you probably would back all day, to bury it in the net, saw her penalty well saved by Ciara McCarthy. Now, that seemed to briefly arrest the impetus and Maru Bohor being on the front foot. And Drum went down at the other end of the field and got 2 points. And at this stage, there were 7 points to no score up. And they were desperate, unlucky. Right on the stroke of half-time, I think it was Arnie Cunningham hit it, a shot that hit the inside of a post and actually came out to safety, which doesn't happen too often. Had that gone in, it was game, set and match. And now there was a slight breeze that blew down from the railway in towards the Ballyhowras, Jack. All breezes don't blow from the Ballyhowras. This one was blowing towards the Ballyhowras. But straight after half-time, the Maru Bohor got a couple of points. And then about 7 or 8 minutes into the second half, they lost Megan Buckley, their county player, midfielder, who was an influential figure and had scored a point at that stage, had scored one of the 2 points. But you felt right, the comeback was on. But no, Drum steadied the ship and tacked on a couple of points and were 10 points to 2 ahead at the second water break. And really, there was really no way back for Maru Bohor. They saw it out comfortably. The McCarthy's in the spine of the defence. The county players, Maeve at full back, Neve at centre back. I thought Anna Cunningham was outstanding in the forwards. She scored 4 points from play, but she made a pure nuisance of herself as far as the Maru Bohor defence was concerned. energy and her general play. I thought she was really very good. But Drum have learned from last year. I saw them last year. Now they are missing Norma O'Sullivan, one of their stalwarts at midfield. She's in Vietnam for a year, and she certainly is a loss. But they are a very strong side. The Drum are a very, very strong side. But this final, Jack, it's beautifully set up. In that, excuse me, that they've already met in the group stages.
Yeah, I was just going to get into that.
And it ended 113 to 110. Yeah. So there is nothing between these two.
No, and Ula lost that game, obviously, and they won the other game against Knockany to go through. But against Father Casey's in the quarter-final, they really hit their groove, scored 4-14, and then obviously got over the hump of the semi-final. So, like the Monkeys off the back for Ula, they'll have no kind of fear, I suppose, going into this final. They've got past that semi-final, and a team like that is very dangerous going up against defending champions.
Oh, very, very dangerous. Absolutely very, very dangerous. And, we spoke about Ballylanders and Mona Gay and Drum making the bright starts. But at one stage, Ula were leading Mungret 1-4 to a point. So the writing was probably on the wall early for Mungret at that stage. Now, I know at one stage in the second half, Mungret clawed it back 1-6 to 6 points, but Ula found an extra gear then and tacked on 3 points. Like Richard Bowles is the manager of Ula, well-known former Limerick goalkeeper. So there won't be too much that, and of course an Ula native, that he and his management team won't know about football. So Drum Bradford, they're in for one hell of a task now. But they showed in last year's final, I think, Jack, that when the chips are down and when the gauntlet was thrown at them by Mungret St. Paul's in last year's final, that they got over the hump.
Yeah, they did. And I suppose that's just the tip of the iceberg for ladies football this weekend. I get your prediction on that game, but we also have semi-finals. Let me just get them up here. We have Adair versus Grudy Gales. That game is played on Sunday, so it will be clashing with the finals, which is, I suppose, unfortunate. Then we have Galty Gales are playing Atay on Saturday, and then in the Junior B, we have Drum Broadford versus Atay as well. So just to cast an eye over them games, Matt, how do you see them going?
Well, of course, the one thing that surprises me about all that is the fact to see Atay playing at junior level. It's not too very long ago since they won 10 senior titles in a row. They certainly are the fallen giants of Limerick ladies football, but there seem to be a revival there. I suppose at the start of the year that when you would see again, this is no disrespect to Grudy Gales, that you would say that the likely winner of the ASME of the A Championship was going to come from a trio of Adair, Galty Gales and Atay. I know Grudy Gales will have other ideas about that, but they would have seemed to have been the favourites at the outset. Galty Gales are having a good year, Jack. They're doing an awful lot of good work. It could be an Adair Galty Gales final. Yep. They may have enough to get over Atay, which again would be measurable progress for them. But I suppose Adair are the favourites there, Jack.
Yeah, I suppose they topped the group alongside Galty Gales, so it'll be no surprise to see them in the final together. That's our action this weekend in ladies football. I think they're going to be streamed, but they're on the Gaelic Crowns, and I'd advise people to get out and support the games, because if the hurling county final is anything to go by, this Sunday should be a very memorable event. And I suppose next weekend then we will have the Camogie finals in the two Gaelic Crowns. You have Killeedy versus Newcastle West in a repeat of last year's final, and you have Cappamore, who were last year's runners-up in intermediate, against Mona Lee. And we'll talk about them games in depth next week, Matt. But I suppose for the new manager, John Lillis, who was involved last year in 2021, it's a first chance for John, I suppose, to see the players as manager. So I presume you weren't too surprised about his appointment.
No, he was part of Pat Ryan's backroom team, and it was a seamless appointment. in that was done with minimum fuss. And I suppose it was judicious that it should be done in good time for the county finals, as was the new ladies football manager, because I suppose that is an opportunity to see some of the best teams in the county in the particular year, and to see how the various players show up and stand up on those situations. Yeah, he was part of Pat Ryan's team last year, and it is kind of a seamless transition in many ways, in that a lot of his backroom team he has retained. So let's hope that the foundation that Pat had set there lay there, because I suppose by any standard, Jack, and I'm still a bit peaked over the game against Wexford. It was a good year for. A decent year for Limerick Camogie, in that we comfortably avoided relegation with that win over Offaly. It was a hard-won win, but now that day in Wexford, I'm against Wexford. I'm still very annoyed about it. Very annoyed, like that there's a close-in free given in the very last minute, and that the whistle is blown from the puck out. I just wonder, and I've made inquiries as whether the referee had intimated that it was the last puck of the game or not, because it would have ramifications were it half blocked or had she to score direct. So I don't know, but we came that close, Jack, to a quarter final, which is the ultimate goal, and then you had the juniors going all the way to the semi-final. So. And going to the semi-final of the league, and I think overall it was a decent year for Limerick Camogie. I think the building blocks are there now, and it just suits it. That to somebody that was really part of the system as recently as this year, that would take the reins for next year. So we wish John Lillis the very, very best of luck.
Yeah, I was just going to echo there with the building blocks. I think Pat Ryan put down the building blocks, and now it's up to John and his background team to continue in that vein, because it was a positive year overall for Limerick Camogie, and I'm sure there'll be two exceptional.
Oh yeah, but there were some exceptional players actually in the junior team, Pat, that are Jack, that I would be expecting that would be stepping up. We saw how Anya Cunningham made a successful transition during the year, because she started the year with the junior team and had an outstanding
game there. And that was
she had only one game there, because you talk about being out of their depth, but she was way above the standard. She was absolutely outstanding in that game, and she made a very quick and successful transition and made her debut below in Ennis against Clare in the league, and wasn't at all out of place, and has gone on from there, and I have no doubt will go on in the coming year.
Yeah, and there's loads more players like that. We've obviously seen the underage sides in Limerick Camogie have done very well in recent years, and there's a good few of them played junior last year.
Well, you certainly have the like of Michelle Curtin, which we've spoken about, and when it comes to 2021, Michelle will want to forget about it, and she's jolly good reason for it. I don't think she was fairly treated by the authorities, and I'm not blaming Limerick Camogie. She's one that's going to step up, and I think Ailby Larkin is another one that's going to be has a huge future. And what about Valerie Shanahan?
There's a lot of players.
There's quite a lot of players now, and we certainly will have the privilege of seeing Valerie in action in the county final. Ailby we won't, nor Michelle we won't, but we certainly will see her in action in the county final.
Yeah, and that's all. We'll have a full preview of those games next weekend. Before we get on to the Junior A Hurling, I might just go through the Junior B championships, and we'll start here with the football. Those semi-finals are on this weekend. Hurling, sorry. We have Bruff versus Adair and Blackrock versus Cappamore. Cappamore, obviously, the last side to come through after beating Newcastle West. With only the semi-finals, we probably haven't seen much of the Junior B Championships. From what you've seen, Matt, I know we'd spoken a lot about a dare. Do you still fancy a dare to get through to the final yet, at least?
Well, Jack, Adair are the only one of the four I haven't seen. Now, I saw the South final against Bruff and Blackrock, and I made a point after it. It was of such a standard that I said to a couple of people after, I said, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if those two teams met in the county final.
And you're still sticking with that?
The two of them were very, very good. Now, I went out last week and last Saturday, and I saw Cappamore defeat Newcastle West in atrocious conditions out in Martinstown. Pitch was fine, no problem whatsoever. It was the prevailing conditions, the rain that blew in from the railway, and again, Jack, not from the Ballyoras before you start. Torrential rain. But again, I thought for Junior B, Jack, that the standard was very, very high.
Yeah, I'm the same. Whatever games I've seen so far in Junior B has been very high standards.
Very, very high standard. I thought, and it sort of made me reflect, on my belief that Blackrock and Bruff could meet in the final. It's not as clear cut as that. Cappamore, they're a dogged side, and it's not too long ago since they won it. And they have a few players that have come back from senior to lend a hand, lend their experience. For instance, the intermediate manager Declan Deere lined out at midfield. Tommy Ryan, who was such a stalwart for so many years, he was in goal, and he kept a clean sheet, despite saving an absolute bullet from Cian Sheehan. Absolutely earned his keep, but I thought it was a good standard of hurling. And if you just walk in casually off the road and saw the game, and you'd need a little convincing that was Junior B.
Yeah, and I suppose it's all feeding down from Limerick being so successful that the interest is there and players are playing. And
but this was, Jack, despite the torrential rain that came down. This is the point I'm trying to make. Like the circumstances. Now, the pitch was fine. And then the pitch was fine the following morning for Drum and Maru Bohar. But like the prevailing conditions were not certainly conducive to playing good hurling. But credit both sides.
Yeah, I think every side this year has really shown an adaptability to deal with conditions, because you really don't know until the whistle is blown what kind of wind, rain, dry sun you're going to get. Remember, we were in Rackeel that fateful morning for the quarterfinals in the football, and it was lovely beforehand, and the last rain, it was grand afterwards. But please God, the weather will stay somewhat acceptable over the weekend for all the games. We obviously have football as well. That's the hurling again. We football this weekend: Galway versus Knockaderry and Claghon versus Grana Ballingarry. Both games again on Saturday. We kind of had tipped the West teams at the start of the year, Matt. I'd be inclined definitely to stick that side. I think Grana Ballingarry are very strong. Now, the other game I think is a bit more even, but I just side towards Knockaderry. What would your thinking be on those games?
I know, Jack, you weren't being one bit parochial, just as I wasn't being parochial when I was talking about the South teams. But hey, presto, I agree totally with you.
That's a first here, and only 162 episodes in. But I just think Grana Ballingarry could definitely play Junior A football, and have could have for the last few years. And I think Knockaderry are probably the same. I know they're both probably hurling first kind of clubs, but then again, Galway and Claghon, it's their second side, but you don't know how strong they're going to be. Like, the later you get into the championship, Matt, the harder it is to call.
The harder it is to call, and of course, there's none of the Claghon or Galway players going to be burned anymore, so they have what they have, and I have no doubt that they'll make a fair cut for it. But I'm inclined to side with your analysis of it, Jack, and that traditionally, when it comes to football, the Western Division has been the strongest. And you would probably have seen those teams at first hand, probably playing Ballysteen and what have you in the West Championship. But from this remove, anyway, it would look as if the the West final could also be the county final. I would say that with more certainty in football than I would say that the South final in hurling could be the county final, and because I think Adair and Cappamore will have a say in it. But I still think that's probably the way it'll pan out. But one never knows.
Yeah, we'll know after weekend. But the one thing is for sure, if a team has got to the semi-finals Junior B competitions, they're definitely doing something right, because it is a very hard competition to get out of. I've played it first time, like it's dogged down there. But as we said, like the standard is definitely strong this year. I suppose another main attraction this weekend, and probably the main attraction on Saturday, is the Junior A Hurling final between Caherline and St Kierans. And before we get into the game itself, Matt, it's probably fair to say that you wouldn't have picked out this as a potential final to start of the year.
No, that's absolutely totally right, Jack. You're totally correct, and I don't think that if you're honest, and at the outset and discussing the prospects of clubs in the 2021 Limerick Junior A Championship, I don't think either side would appear on the radar as being, potential winners. But one of them is going to be a winner now, and they're there. And Jack, you would have to say that they're there on merit. Now, it's a long, arduous campaign. And the beauty about this is there can be no arguments about one team having a semi-final and one team having a quarter-final or any of that. All teams have the same opportunities. They play 5 group games, they play a quarter-final, and they play a semi-final. These two teams, Jack, have lost a game each. So, there can be no arguments. And interestingly, and I was looking at it earlier in the week, the game that St Kierans lost was in the opening round against Kilteely Drumkean, when they suffered a very, very heavy defeat.
Yeah.
And the omens at that stage were not good. Now, I know probably at that stage they had they still were probably involved in the football, and they had the little matter of survival in the football, but once the football got out of the way, they had a clear run at it. But by God, did they take their chances, Jack? I saw them against Doon in the quarter-final, and while I predicted that they would beat Doon, I thought I didn't see county championship material in them. But they went on, and they had a very good win over Ballybrick and Bohermore in the semi-final. And this is a Ballybrick and Bohermore, which we were among those that fancied them as being possible contenders. They were the only side that inflicted defeat in Caherline. Yeah, and which they did in round 3. They beat him by, was it 117 to 17 points? There was just a goal in it, and I'm not sure if that's the right points tally, but that's a ballpark figure of what the score was. Maybe it was 115 to 15, but that's what it was anyway. So, Caherline have been remarkably consistent, Jack. Remarkably consistent. And I think when Caherline really, really made a statement, and confirmed their pedigree as potential champions, was in the knockout stages. Because if you remember at the concluding stages of the groups, Jack, there was an awful lot of people talking up about Ballybrown.
Yeah.
And for good reason. They had been hugely, hugely impressive in the group stages, including that famous victory over Castletown Ballygran, which ultimately cost Castletown Ballygran, who I thought would have been favourites from the outset, their championship hopes. And Caherline dug out a very good win against Ballybrown. And you might say, life didn't get any easier for them when they got to the semi-final, because they faced a banging for them St Patrick's with the Hegarty brothers on top of their game.
Yeah,
and they got over that. So like I for both sides, I don't think there can be any argument about their credentials to be there.
no, definitely
Now,
not. And
I know Fina Kilmeady possibly lost out on scoring difference. But look, it is what it is now. If you look at the forum guide, the best two teams during the group stages and obviously during the knockout stages to date will contest the county final on Saturday.
yeah, and I think I could be wrong with scores. I think they both beat St Pat's by 3 points, so it'll give you an indication of how close the teams are. But on Kierans for a second, they haven't conceded a goal since the group stages, and didn't concede a goal in their final round. So you saw them play against Doon firsthand. They're obviously an extremely hard team to break down.
They're a very hard team to break down, and they have an awful hard core of experience. Because it's 9 years since they won the Limerick Junior Championship, and they went on to reach the Munster Club's final that year, Jack, and they were beaten by 2 points by Kildare in the Munster final, and very, very, very unlucky. And that there's a core of that team around still, John Graney is there, the three McCarthy's are there, Anthony Molyneux is there, Johnny Nolan is there, Ian Mackesy is there, there are others, and that's invaluable experience. And I looking at those particular players, and now they have the younger players as well, but I thought in their victory over Doon, the amount of influence that those particular players, particularly Anthony Molyneux inside at corner forward, he's a handful. Make no mistake about it. The amount of influence that they exerted on that game, and the amount that they put into winning that game, was absolutely phenomenal. Now they have good young players as well. The McInerney, Sean Ryan, all these lads, good lads, but they have this core of players who are very, 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 very solid, and we'll have experience, of course, Jack, of what it takes to win a county championship and what it takes to get to finals. And we're very, very unlucky that day in Mallow. They came so close. I remember at the last minute, a line ball came into the square, and Johnny McCarthy got a touch to it, and it just went wide. And had it gone in, they were that near to being Munster champions. So they have a hard core of those players still around, and I think it counts for a lot.
Yeah, but at the same token, Caherline will have experience of playing in community cricket. Now they haven't won since 2007, so I don't think there's anyone left. But they do have players that played intermediate as recently as 5 or 6 years ago. And in Andrew Brennan, they'll have a fella that will score from anywhere if he's given the opportunity.
Yeah. I suppose you talk about standout performers in particular championships, and we were talking about it in the context of the hurling championship and the football championship and what have you. From all the evidence and from all I'm hearing and reading about the present Limerick Junior A championship is that Andrew Brennan is the standout performer in this particular championship, and that he's making this Caherline team tick. Now he's playing at centre forward. I understand in the semi-final he had a battle royale with Garrod Hegarty. So yeah, he's one of the standout performers. Now, Colm Hickey, who's been around a long, long time and has represented Limerick, now he's on the bench, and I think he's sub-goalkeeper, I'm not sure, but certainly, if an hour of need, Colm Hickey, who had a very, very good run with Gary Spillane, including a county senior medal, I think, with the Bouncers, would be somebody to call on, and won a Munster under 21 medal in 2000 when Limerick beat Waterford and Dungarvan 6 points to 4. So yeah, and they've other players there that have quite a lot of experience, but they've lads coming through that have been involved in various, I'd say probably Limerick squads, development squads without maybe making the teams. I know certainly some of them were involved in the Celtic Challenge games and all that sort of thing. So yeah, they've probably come from nowhere. Obviously, Damien Gillan has gone in there. This is his second year. Obviously, he learned from what happened last year. And he has done a fantastic job in turning Caherline around.
Yeah,
and as you said, they're bidding for the first title in 14 years. When they went into that particular county final in 2007 as outsiders against Effin, and they upscuttled the odds on the day and won. And we've seen what has happened with Effin since.
Yeah, I like that word, upscuttle. I might use that going forward. We've nearly an hour on the clock there. I just wanted to ask this question now. It's not really relevant to the weekend, but before we get to your predictions, of course. But looking at the Munster Championships for the hurling and football, we're starting to kind of. Limerick was finished very early, in fairness to them, and I don't think any other. I think the Clare football was the first one to finish after Limerick. But we'll say for Kilmallock, it's going to be Glen Rovers or Middleton, and you've obviously done your share of work in Cork. I don't know if you'll be able to keep up to date with that championship, but which team would you fancy to get through in a week's time?
I had a hunch about Middleton from the start of the year.
And you're sticking that.
I can't say that I was saying they were winners, but what I had a hunch was that they'd be contenders.
And they're certainly that.
And it would be disingenuous of me to say that I said that they'd be county champions. I didn't, but I said they'd have a say in it, and that they'd be contenders. There are an awful lot of similarities between Glen Rovers and Kilmallock, in that in a couple of the group games, Glen Rovers, rode their luck.
Yeah.
And they've played their get out of jail card, and of course they've have a fantastic tradition in the Glen, going all the way back, and of course, without wanting to rehash the whole Christie Ring influence and all that sort of thing, but I think Middleton would probably be favourites, but only slight favourites. When Glen Rovers get to the final, I wouldn't discount them for 1 minute.
Yeah, but as for Kilmallock, you would still be quite confident that Kilmallock could get through either one of them.
I would. I think I would. I would. But yeah, it's strange to say, I think Glen Rovers may suit them more.
Yeah, you don't know. But Kilmallock have a great tradition in Munster, but that's weeks away. And then for
of course the game is in Kilmallock.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
And then obviously Munster St Paul's are going to play a Cork team as well. It's down to 4. I'm not sure the 4 left. I couldn't find results during the week, but you'd imagine Munster St Paul's will probably be favourites for that game by virtue of their performance in the final. You're struggling there. I suppose it depends who comes out of Cork. It's hard to tell when you have semi-finals.
Premier Intermediate in Cork, Jack, is of a very high standard,
Yeah, no, it is, and the 4 teams that remain are very strong in their own way. But we won't.
I'll just talk you through them here if I can get them up here now.
I'm fairly sure Ballinhassig were one of them, I think.
Yeah, well, they would have the Collins brothers straight away,
Yeah. You can only have one goal at a time, though. Is the only thing.
But, they can only play one goalkeeper,
And I think I might be right in saying the last Cork goalie out, Cole, I think was his name, was also from that club. I could be wrong now there, Matt. But
Martin Coleman was for the 3 in a row goalkeeper was from Ballinhassig.
Yeah.
And his son or nephew was subsequently in goal. Now, we've Castle Lions. Castle Lions would be that would be the club of Colm Spillane.
Yeah, they were in the final last year.
we have Courcey Rovers, Valley Rovers. Valley Rovers would be from Inishannon, and would be the home club of one of Cork's greatest GA administrators and former president of the association, Con Murphy, was a Valley Rovers man. And Ballinhassig, you're right, Ballinhassig. That would be the Collinses and the Colemans.
Yeah,
two goalkeeping dynasties down in Ballinhassig on the main road down to Bandon.
There's great pedigree in those Cork teams, right? Still, I think regardless of who comes through, I would still be back in Munster just the way they play. But going on to the football then briefly, Matt. Newcastle West will play the Waterford winners. That's down to the Nair and Rathgarmuk. You'd have to fancy the Nair, and they did beat Adair quite comprehensively a few years back. But I was only saying during the week, if I could get odds on Newcastle to win Munster, I'd put a few pounds on it. I'm not a betting man by any means, but I just think Newcastle, I can't imagine there's a squad stronger than them in Munster. But would you fancy the Nair to be the ones to play Newcastle in Newcastle?
I would, and I'd fancy them to be tough customers.
The Nair or Newcastle?
No, Nair, the Nair.
Yeah, no, they have some good footballers. I think they have Jamie Byrne, and they also have Conor Gleeson, who's a very, very good footballer.
They would be the football equivalent of 4 Mile Water. So
they'd also be the football equivalent of Ballygunner in Waterford. That's their perennial winner.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, sorry, the football equivalent is the wrong word. They'd be the football arm of 4 Mile Water Hurling.
Yeah.
And certainly they would be Waterford's equivalent to Ballygunner as in terms of dominance, and certainly they'll be tough customers, Jack.
Yeah, but you would know.
I wouldn't take anything. I wouldn't take anything at all for granted against the Nair
or Rathgarmuk. But I'm just saying, I think Newcastle are strong. But we have one definite pairing. It's Kildare Palace Kinnery versus Corofin. They won, not Corofin from Galway, not to confuse with them. Clare's Corofin won the Clare Championship on Sunday. No, I can't say that I've seen them, but Kildare Palace Kinnery will have that added advantage of having played Munster relatively recently. I know it's a big step up, but at least for KP, they can actually say we're playing this team. You know, the rest of the
absolutely, and you know they will have a sense of what the Munster Championship takes, you know, and as for Corofin, I know absolutely nothing about him, I must confess, Jack. So when you'll come to put me on the spot about it, I better get acquainted with him and you know, but you no, it's the Corofin have home advantage, whatever that means. Whether the game is in Corofin or whether it is at a Clare venue, I'm not so sure. Which certainly will be a good start for them, and yeah, you know, these games can go anywhere, Jack, and it's going to be in December.
Yeah, it's December 4th or 5th, so we'll have a research done by then. We'll be able to tell you all about Corofin and whoever the Nair or Rathgarmuk, and also
we'll be experts on Corofin by then.
Yeah, and I think the Mount Collins are playing the Tip champions. I think there's still 4 teams left in that.
Yeah.
So we can get all those games. I just thought it was interesting that we actually finally had a pairing that Kildare Palace Kinnery know who they're going to play.
Now, St Kierans and Caherline are going to be playing Ballygiblin. Ballygiblin is the hurling arm of Mitchelstown, who I'd be quite familiar with, and they'll have a certain Dara Flynn who scored all those points in the Munster final against Limerick's under-20s.
I thought that championship was only at the semi-final stage. I thought they only won.
Yeah, well, I'm just going through. Then you have Passage West. You have St Itas.
Seamus Harnedy,
and Drumtariff, which is the home club of Colm O'Callaghan, isn't it? The under-20.
Keane O'Callaghan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Drumtariff lost the final last year, but as I said, we'll have our research done for the Munster Championships that we'll know exactly about all these clubs, Matt. But before we finish up, we'll come back to our own and we'll finish with what we kind of know about. I want to say we're getting, well, you're definitely getting better week on week. I'll put up the scores in our predictions. You correctly said Monaghan, Ballylanders, and Bradford. I had gone for Ailbees, and we'd both gone for Mungriff. You're 5 points ahead. I'm running out of games to catch you, Matt. Not to mind getting them right, but we'll go forward with our predictions for this week. I'll keep it to 3. We'll keep it to the 3 finals, ladies football finals, and the Junior A, and then we'll next week have the Camogie ones, and we might go into Munster. We'll see. But for the time being, Matt, Ballylanders and Monaghan, you didn't, I suppose, spill much, so you might tell us which way you're siding with and who and why, I suppose.
I'm siding with Monaghan, and I hope I'm wrong. And that's no disrespect to Monaghan, because I have the utmost respect for them. But Ballylanders is my club. But I have a sense that there is that pent-up hurt in Monaghan that, that they're going to move mountains to ensure that they won't be remembered as a team that lost 4 out of 5 or lost 3 in a row. And I'm going for them to win it by about 2 points.
Yeah, I didn't see Ballylanders at the weekend, but I saw them on again, and I was very, very impressed with them. I just thought a complete side, Matt. Just no real weaknesses. They were very, very efficient in front of goals. They were very stubborn at the back. They moved the ball well. They've brilliant players. I'm going to go with Monaghan by 4, but again, it's a toss of a coin and a county final day. Ula versus Bradford. Obviously, Bradford are defending champions. Do you think they'll retain their title, or will we have a new winner?
Yeah, I'm going with Bradford by 3, Jack, because my prediction is not conditioned or influenced in the slightest by the result when they met in the group stages. What is influencing my thinking is that I don't think that Bradford, even though they won very comfortably 12 points to 3 in the semi-final, I don't think they were at their best. There's room for improvement. Now, it's a quick turnover of a week, but I think with Massey McCarthy and Kevin Noonan, Siobhan McCarthy on the sideline, that they will find, I think, that extra 5 or 10%. So I'm going with Bradford by 3.
I'm going to go with Ula by 2 points. I think, first off, just to get that monkey off your back to get through to a final, it can kind of be a relief to some sides it takes as a burden. But also, it's hard to beat a team twice in the same year, Matt. And obviously, Bradford took that first game. Ula will be looking for revenge, and no better place to get revenge in the final day. So I'm just going to side with Ula by 2 points. And then the Junior A Hurling on Saturday, Kierans and Caherline.
I'm going with Kierans by 2.
Kierans by 2. I'm going to go with St Kierans by 1. I don't think it'll be a very high scoring game, Matt. From what we've seen of both sides, probably more St Kierans. They do like to keep it tight. So it probably won't be the most high scoring game, but should be very entertaining all the time.
Should be very entertaining. There's no doubt about that. It should be an entertaining game. I'm really, really looking forward to it, as I always look forward to the Junior A final, because it's invariably a cracker, and it's clubs trying to move up the ladder. And it's fantastic that that his 2 first teams are 2 we'll say exclusively junior hurling clubs that are contesting the final. So, like, there's going to be a new name in intermediate ranks at the end of the year, or at the end of the day on Saturday. So, not that either side will be unfamiliar with intermediate championship, because, like, they were both in the intermediate championship up to 2018. I think St Kierans fell out, and I think, was it 2015? Caherline, fell out, or got demoted. So, like, there's the prize of being junior champions, and of course there's the prize of making their step up and testing against the higher level. So, but I'm going for Kierans.
Yeah, I'm going to go Kierans as well. And I suppose the likes of Crow Kilfinney, Lion Palace, Kenry, that have come through those ranks in recent years can be kind of a motivation for these sides, that the gap isn't that big. Now, it is very big to get to the top, but, like, I mean, incremental steps as all these clubs can take, and Kierans and Caherline are only 60 minutes away from that. But it promises to be a cracking final. That's on at Kilmallock at 3 o'clock on Saturday.
Is it 2 or 3, Jack?
Oh, maybe it's 2 o'clock. I thought it was 3, but I'll check that there for you. Obviously we don't want to get that wrong. The ladies football finals, we have the curtain raiser Ula versus Drum Broadford at 12 noon, and then we have Ballylanders versus Monagate. That game throws in at 2:15. That's been changed. I'm just getting up to Junior A here. It's 2 o'clock. You are right. Caherline versus St Kierans is 2 o'clock in Kilmallock.
You'll miss the first half, Jack.
I know I'll be there nice and early anyway. So I'll be there. Well, if I thought I was on a 3, I will be there probably around the start of it. But a great weekend of action, Lanes.
Great, absolutely fantastic weekend, and we'll have plenty to look back on next week anyway, and plenty to look forward to again, because we'll have the 2 Junior B finals to look forward to. Plus, of course, Camogue's Red Letter Day, County Camogue final day.
Yeah, it's all very busy. I thought we might have a bit of a break there before the Munster, but there's been games every week, and it's brilliant to have these games to look forward to and look back on. And I suppose outside of that, I have been running polls on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for a Senior Hurling Championship Team of the Year. It's been dominated by Kilmallock so far, but I can't help how the public vote in Kilmallock were very good. And I suppose it's people are asking how it's done. It's percentage of each social media just to get the best, I suppose, range of votes. So percentage from Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Some people have missed out because of it, but sure, look, it's all for fun. Anyone?
What's the team lining up at the moment, Jack?
Barry Hennessy in goals, then Joy, Mark O'Loughlin, and Liam English make up an all Kilmallock back 4, and then you have Carl Downs was the first wing back, Dermot Burns at centre back, just got ahead of Conor McSweeney, and the other wing back is Philip O'Loughlin. I don't know if that's announced yet, but I have the calculations done. It's ready to go. So there's a breaking news for Philip O'Loughlin into the number 7 shirt. At the moment, if you wanted to vote, Matt, on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, it's Robbie Handley versus William O'Donoghue.
Yes,
but,
I saw that.
I did my own team in the paper and the post, if anyone wants to read that. But sure, look, again, it's all for fun, and anyone that was even nominated or spoken about, look, they had a brilliant year. We had so many players this year in the Hurling Championship. We saw a lot of games. Saw a lot of people put their hand up maybe to say if John Kiley was looking at him, and they're getting it. But at the end of the day, look, it's all for fun, isn't it, Matt? It is,
and tis all, at the end of the day, it's all a matter of opinion.
Yeah, look, it's all opinions. If you disagree, look, you feel free to get in touch. There's no issues there, because look, it's my opinion to nominate him. Now, I did ask a few weeks ago people to put forward their names, and I did take all that in consideration. But look, I'm happy for the people that got picked, and for those that get picked and your name was there, look, you had a stellar year. So I think I'll leave my rambling there for today, Matt. I don't think we've missed anything. We have loads of games to look forward to. In case you mistook me a while ago, it's 2 o'clock on Saturday, the Junior A Hurling final. The intermediate football, ladies football, is 12 noon, and the senior football final, ladies, is on 2:15. So again, huge thank you to everyone that listened and watched, or whatever way you're viewing it.
Just a final reminder, Jack. A final reminder. When people be criticising you backed against us. We don't puck a ball, nor we don't kick a ball.
Well, I try to still somehow until the back gives away, but in the big games, no, definitely not. We're only looking at it, and look, we're just trying to give you an opinion. We're getting great feedback, and everyone that, I suppose we better say, Matt, anyone that says it to us in person, look, we really appreciate all the feedback. I was talking to one of the Newcastle boys straight after the county final, and he was saying that I had him backed, and that, again, all for a bit of fun. Look, we just want to promote Limerick sport, and we're doing our best, and thank God we've been given such brilliant days recently, Matt. We've been blessed to be a part of a Limerick podcast recently, haven't we? Absolutely,
and long may it continue, Jack.
Yeah, long may it continue. And I think we'll leave it with there. We'll let you play out with the experts who have done it on the field. But for myself and Matt, a huge thank you to everyone who watched, and for me personally, thank you, Matt, and we'll be in touch soon. I'll see you at the final, but we'll be in touch with the public later to look back on what promised to be a great weekend of action. So thank you very much.
The impression again we get out with what you put into it's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
Not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence, you can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Johnny Buckley. To do that to Tomas O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the workout today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran and Caherline. Caherline leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it high. He's put it over.
There's no sympathy in this